3 cargo vessels struck in short order, one of them currently on fire off the coast of Dubai. Right now, the critical pinch point of the global economy, the Strait of Hormuz, just 21 miles across at its narrowest point, is choking. In normal times, roughly 20% of the world, U.S. daily supply of oil and gas passes through this exact corridor. Today, ships are moving in the dead of night, with their transponders completely turned off, terrified of becoming the next target. Bloomberg recently published a report citing the energy minister of Qatar, warning the international community that the price of crude oil could violently spike to $150 a barrel if this blockade holds. Mortgage rates are creeping past 5%. The cost of everyday survival for the American middle class is skyrocketing to catastrophic levels. Yet, at this exact same moment, if you look closely at the financial filings of the world's U.S. largest defense contractors and institutional banks, they are quietly preparing to record some of their most profitable quarters in human history. Welcome to Prism News. I am your host. And today we are not just reading the mainstream headlines. We are investigating the financial matrix. Why is it that during every single major global crisis, from a pandemic lockdown to a full-scale conflict in the Middle East, the working class bleeds their purchasing power while the global elite massively multiply their wealth? Do you think it is just luck? It is not. It is a mathematical certainty built directly into the core code of our financial system. It is a silent mechanism designed to turn your hard work into their capital. By the end of this deep dive, you will understand exactly how the system legally picks your pocket every single day, and more importantly, the specific moves you must make right now to stop being their prey. Let us look at the cold, hard reality on the ground. The United States and its regional allies are currently engaged in what the Pentagon has dubbed Operation Epic Fury. In just the first few days of this engagement, military forces executed more than 5,000 precision strikes across foreign territory. They are flying B-2 Spirit stealth bombers on exhausting 37-hour round trips from bases in Missouri all the way to the Middle East. They are launching Tomahawk land attack cruise missiles from warships stationed in the Gulf of Oman. According to defense analysis published by Reuters, each one of those Tomahawk missiles cost the American taxpayer roughly $2.5 million. Now, I want you to ask yourself a very simple, uncomfortable question. Where does the money actually come from? The mainstream media wants you fixated on the geopolitical drama, the political debates, and the explosions on your television screen. But the real story, the story that actually affects your family, is the money supply. Wars of this magnitude are incredibly expensive. When a government needs to fund a massive, open-ended military campaign, they do not have the time or the political capital to slowly collect taxes from your paycheck. Instead, they issue debt. And quote, they authorize the central bank, the Federal Reserve, to print hundreds of billions of new fiat currency directly out of thin air. This is where the grand financial illusion begins. You are told by politicians that this new money is absolutely necessary for national security and global stability. What they conveniently leave out is that every single new digital dollar printed instantly dilutes the value of every dollar you have worked so hard to save. They are funding the war machine by silently draining your bank account. To truly understand the mechanics of the greatest legal theft in modern history, we cannot look at today, U.S. politicians. We have to travel back to the 18th century to meet a brilliant Irish-French economist and banker named Richard Cantillon. Long before the Federal Reserve, long before the International Monetary Fund, or the modern banking syndicate even existed, Cantillon observed a fascinating and deeply disturbing truth about how money flows. He realized that when new money is introduced into an economy, it does not magically appear in everyone's pockets at the exact same time. The expansion of the money supply is never a neutral event. It fundamentally and aggressively alters the distribution of wealth. This principle is known in high-level economic circles as the Cantillon Effect. To visualize this, imagine the entire global economy as a massive, multi-tiered waterfall. The new currency being printed by the central bank is poured exclusively at the very top of this waterfall. If you are a massive institution standing at the very top, you get to drink the pure, abundant water immediately. But if you are a regular citizen standing at the bottom, you only get whatever muddy drops trickle down after everyone else has taken their massive share. This is the hidden law of power. The closer you stand to the money printer, the richer you become. The further away you are, the more heavily you pay the hidden, crushing tax of inflation. Let us break down exactly who stands at each level of this financial waterfall today, because the names and the entities will shock you. At the absolute top tier, positioned directly under the spigot of the central bank, you have the federal government, the primary dealer megabanks, the shadow banking sector led by asset managers like BlackRock and Vanguard, and the colossal defense contractors. Let us say, Congress approves a new emergency defense and economic package worth $300 billion. That newly created digital liquidity flows instantly into the accounts of the aerospace giants and the weapons manufacturers. Here is their ultimate, unfair advantage. They get the privilege of spending this new money before prices in the broader economy have had any time to rise. They use this freshly printed, maximum value capital to buy up hard assets secure raw materials, acquire real estate, and execute massive stock buybacks at yesterday US prices. The Wall Street Journal frequently reports on how institutional investors leverage this early access to capital. By the time that money circulates enough to create supposed economic growth, these titans have already won the game. They are legally front-running the entire global economy, extracting the purchasing power from the currency before it ever reaches the middle class. As gravity takes hold, the money cascades down to the middle tier of the waterfall. This sector includes the large commercial corporations, the secondary logistical contractors, and the industrial manufacturing giants. As the defense companies and government agencies spend their billions, the money floods into the broader supply chain. Suddenly, you have a massive influx of new currency chasing the exact same, or even a reduced, amount of raw materials, labor, and energy. What happens next is inescapable economic physics. Prices begin to surge. We are seeing this exact scenario play out in real time right now. The conflict in the Middle East severely disrupts established supply routes. Global shipping conglomerates warn of catastrophic delays because they are responsible for moving 40,000 massive containers in and out of the Gulf every single week. According to international maritime data, insurance premiums for commercial vessels navigating these red zones have skyrocketed from a fraction of a percent to as high as 3% of the total value of the ship. To compensate for these explosive logistical costs and the flood of newly printed money entering the system, corporations immediately raise the prices of all their goods and services. The energy sector always feels it first. The price of industrial jet fuel doubles. The cost of diesel and unleaded gasoline creeps up relentlessly at the local pump. The inflation tsunami has officially formed deep in the ocean, and it is heading straight for the shoreline of the working class. Finally, weeks or months later, the remaining, heavily diluted fragments of that newly created money reach the bottom of the waterfall. This is exactly where the everyday working citizens are forced to stand. The office workers, the school teachers, the small business owners, and the retirees trying to survive on fixed pensions. By the time this money reaches your paycheck, in the form of a pathetic 3% annual raise or a temporary government stimulus check, the economic landscape around you has been completely devastated. You might feel a brief, psychological moment of relief looking at a slightly larger numerical balance in your checking account, but it is a cruel illusion. The true cost of living has already exploded past your new income. The price of basic groceries, residential electricity, and home heating oil has surged by double digits. You need to understand a fundamental truth right now. Inflation is not a natural economic disaster. It is not an accident caused by greedy local supermarket owners. It is a highly engineered, deeply regressive tax. It silently and brutally transfers purchasing power away from the working class, who have no assets, and funnels it upward to the elite, who own all the assets. You are working harder than ever, clocking in 12-hour days, sacrificing your mental health and your family time, yet your dream of financial freedom is slipping further and further away. You are running on a treadmill that someone else controls, and they are constantly speeding it up because the value of the currency you are sweating for is being deliberately destroyed. To truly grasp the absolute absurdity of this financial system, we must look at the mathematical reality of modern military conflict, which serves as the ultimate excuse for this endless money printing. Right now, military strategists and defense analysts are quietly panicking over something called the cost-benefit ratio of asymmetric warfare. Let me give you a stunning, verifiable example that will make your blood boil. Foreign adversaries are actively deploying massive swarms of loitering munitions, essentially kamikaze drones. These drones are terrifyingly simple and incredibly cheap. They are powered by basic, loud piston engines and built using commercial, off-the-shelf parts you could almost find online. The estimated cost to produce one of these drones is between $35,000 and $50,000. How is the most technologically advanced superpower on Earth defending against this cheap threat? They are firing Patriot surface-to-air interceptor missiles. The cost of a single PAC-3 Patriot missile is roughly $4 million. Let that sink in for a moment. I want you to really think about the math. The military is firing a $4 million precision missile to shoot down a $35,000 piece of flying plastic and metal. It is an entirely unsustainable financial hemorrhage. Every single time the adversary spends $1, they force the superpower to spend over $100 just to defend itself. And where does that endless, bottomless supply of defense money come from? It does not come from a magic vault. It comes directly from the continuous debasement of your national currency. The financial bleed out of the empire is funded entirely by your stolen purchasing power. If this system is so obviously, mathematically rigged against the general public, why does almost everyone continue to blindly participate in it? The answer lies in a highly sophisticated, multi-generational psychological operation. From the very moment you enter the public education system, you are systematically programmed with a specific set of financial beliefs designed to keep you poor. You are taught to go to school, get a stable corporate job, save a portion of your income in a traditional bank account, and avoid taking any real financial risks. This is what independent analysts call the vow of financial silence. The mainstream media financial gurus will constantly preach to you that keeping cash in a high-yield savings account is the safe, responsible, and moral thing to do. But in a fiat monetary system where the central bank is perpetually expanding the supply, causing the currency to lose massive amounts of its value every single decade, holding cash is guaranteed financial suicide. They desperately want you to confuse financial liabilities with true assets. They heavily encourage you to take out massive, high-interest credit to buy depreciating liabilities, like expensive luxury cars or overpriced consumer electronics, keeping you permanently trapped in a never-ending cycle of debt servicing. They absolutely need you to be a compliant consumer and a quiet, unquestioning taxpayer. The entire architecture of the Cantillon Effect depends entirely on the masses remaining completely ignorant of how the game is actually played behind closed doors. I want you to stop and interact with me for a second. Drop a comment below right now and tell me honestly, where do you currently keep the vast majority of your life savings? Is it sitting in fiat currency inside a traditional commercial bank? If your answer is yes, then you need to realize that you are actively funding the very wealth transfer that is crushing you. When you deposit your hard-earned money into a standard banking institution, it does not just sit peacefully in a secure vault waiting for you. The bank immediately leverages your deposits, lending it out multiples of times over to institutions and hedge funds, profiting massively from the interest while paying you pennies in return. Meanwhile, the actual purchasing power of your initial deposit is melting away like an ice cube on a hot summer sidewalk. The traditional financial system is a melting ice cube. By keeping your life energy and your labor stored in a medium of exchange that can be endlessly printed to infinity by unelected bureaucrats, you are voluntarily surrendering your economic sovereignty. You are handing the political elite a blank check to fund their endless overseas wars, their massive corporate bailouts, and their own consolidation of ultimate power. You have to wake up. You must realize that the financial rules you were taught by your parents and teachers were designed by the exact same people who heavily benefit from your financial ignorance. So, what is the solution? How do we, as independent thinkers, escape this perfectly designed matrix? We cannot stop the central banks from printing their trillions. We cannot stop the geopolitical conflicts from escalating, and we certainly cannot stop the massive defense contracts from being signed. But we can absolutely, unilaterally change our personal position on that financial waterfall. The first and most critical step requires a complete and total paradigm shift in how you view the concept of money itself. Rule number 1 is simple but profound. You must immediately stop treating fiat currency as a long-term store of value. The dollar, the euro, the pound, they are merely mediums of exchange. They are temporary tools used to facilitate transactions. Fiat currency is a hot potato, and you must pass it on to acquire real value before it burns a hole in your hands. If you hold on to it, you are mathematically guaranteed to lose. You must begin to systematically exchange your constantly depreciating fiat currency for hard, tangible assets that cannot be manipulated, diluted, or printed away by any government decree or central bank policy. Rule number 2 is the aggressive reallocation of your capital. You must build your personal financial fortress using assets that possess true, unforgeable scarcity. What does this mean in the real world? It means acquiring high-quality real estate in desirable, supply-constrained locations. It means purchasing equity in fundamentally strong, essential businesses that generate consistent free cash flow, regardless of who is in the White House. It means investing heavily in commodities, precious metals, or decentralized digital assets that have a strictly enforced, mathematically capped supply. Furthermore, you must realize that the most absolutely scarce and valuable asset you will ever possess is your own human potential. You must relentlessly invest your time and capital into developing high-leverage, non-automated skills. Become so incredibly adaptable, so analytically sharp, and so valuable to the marketplace that no artificial intelligence algorithm or economic downturn can ever replace you. When you aggressively hold scarce assets and possess rare skills, you completely flip the Cantillon effect in your favor. As the global money supply inevitably expands and inflation runs completely rampant, the nominal price of your hard assets will naturally rise to absorb all of that newly printed liquidity. You instantly stop being the helpless victim of inflation, and you start using it as a massive tailwind to preserve and grow your purchasing power. The greatest wealth transfer in human history is not a conspiracy theory for the future. It is happening right now, in real time, right outside your window. The financial decisions you make over the next few turbulent months will dictate the economic trajectory of your entire bloodline for generations to come. Will you choose to remain a passive, obedient spectator, quietly watching the fruits of your hard work evaporate to fund the geopolitical chess games of the global elite? Or will you take ultimate responsibility, educate yourself on the mechanics of money, and aggressively move your capital into the impenetrable fortress of absolute scarcity? Remember this, above all else. True wealth is never measured by the arbitrary, flashing digital numbers on your banking app. True wealth is your undeniable ability to buy back your freedom, your independence, and the time of your own precious life. Do not let them silently steal it from you. If this deep dive analysis opened your eyes and gave you the clarity you need to survive, hit that subscribe button right now and join the PrismNews community. We do not just blindly report the mainstream headlines. We decode the hidden mechanics of global power. Stay vigilant, stay educated, prepare your portfolio, and I will see you in the next investigation.